Hello, everybody. I am excited to be here today as we go through an important workshop that's kind of been on the books for a couple months now. And we just had a guest on our podcast. We just recorded the episode. So her episode's coming out in November, and it's also around this topic. So today we're going to be talking about pelvic floor strengthening, the importance of it, who needs it, when do you need it? When should you start? What exercises you should be doing? And some other really common questions that are asked. So, as we go through today, we're going to first start off by talking about what pelvic floor strengthening is and what it isn't. For those of you who are new to watching this workshop, you've stumbled upon me through social media and you're just like, who are you? Why do you have any expertise in this? I'm going to give you a little background. My name is Morgan Ekovich. I'm the owner of Get Fit With Me. I'm an online personal trainer, nutrition coach, and accountability coach. And I'm passionate about empowering women to take charge of their bodies in a way that supports their lifestyle through fitness and other ways of nutrition and things like that. So, today, pelvic floor is something that I see a lot of my clients come to me because I work primarily with women and they're either postpartum or they are super athletic and they're noticing some things that they think Kegels will fix. And I'm able to help give them exercises, but if after them doing these exercises consistently, they don't see an increase in or a decrease in some of those problems, then we send them on to a pelvic floor specialist, which we're going to talk about here later on. And if you tune into the episode in November, where we talk to Dr. Andrea Hurst, she's going to talk about pelvic floor as well. So, another great thing to kind of tune into if this is something you're trying to decide, should I be focusing on this? Should I not be focusing on this? What should I be doing? So, first, let's talk about what pelvic floor strengthening actually is and what it isn't. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles located at the base of your pelvis. And these muscles support your bladder, your bowel, and for women, our uterus. When these muscles are weak or imbalanced, it can lead to issues like peeing every once in a while, maybe peeing while we sneeze or when we laugh, or having to cross your legs so there's no leakage. Maybe you have pelvic pain, or maybe you have some discomfort during sex. On the other hand, a strong, balanced pelvic floor can lead to better bladder control, a stronger core, improved balance, and even more confidence in your workouts and your daily activities. So, your pelvic floor is something you don't see. When we work on it, it's those smaller muscles that are deep internal. So, when we work our core, a lot of times we have in our mind that we're working our external muscles, the muscles we are seeing. Those pelvic floor muscles we're never actually going to physically see, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be working them. Well, what is pelvic flo what pel what what pelvic floor strengthening isn't? It's not just about doing Kegels all day long, and that's something that I hear a lot of. One of my girlfriends, she just told me that she was pregnant, and we were talking to her about pelvic floor, and she's like, "Oh, I just gotta start doing Kegels." And we're like, "No, not necessarily. There's so much more to it." And for some people, Kegels can be an effective way, but sometimes they're not. So it's really important to kind of know your body and to start to understand that you can strengthen your pelvic floor other than just Kegels. And there's multiple exercises that you should start now before you even start to see some of these issues like having to cross your legs while you sneeze so you don't pee, things like that. So, as we kind of move into who needs pelvic floor strengthening, this is kind of where we're going to talk about, do you fall into any of these categories, or do you know someone in your life who does that you can share this with? Because although some of these things may be common, it does not mean that they are normal and that you do not have to live through these. If you would like to make a change, if you would like to no longer have to cross your legs when you sneeze to avoid peeing, like, you are able to do that. Just because it is common does not mean it's normal. The truth about pelvic floor is that it's important for every woman, no matter your age or stage in life. Whether you've never had children, or you're currently pregnant, or you've had children, you're entering menopause, or maybe you even just work out on a regular basis. Pelvic floor strength plays a role in your daily comfort and health. You may need Okay, so I want you to think about here. Do you check any of these boxes, even just a little bit? You experience bladder leakage when you sneeze, laugh, or jump. So that trampoline or that laughing really hard when someone makes a joke. Have you ever had a baby and you want to regain your core strength? So remember, when we have a baby, our body changes a lot. We lose a lot of those pelvic floor muscles and we need to re strengthen them. And it's one of those where you may have done super great through your pregnancy, but still your body's just stretching and changing so much that we should still be doing them. Are you noticing discomfort during sex or pelvic pain? This is something that Andrea Hurst talked a lot about on the podcast that is going to be coming out in November. She talked about different things that can happen. She's also a chiropractor. So, ways that our bodies just change and move, and how our muscles sit, how our bones sit, things like that. And that can also come into play. Do you have a weak core or poor posture? So, are you sitting like this all the time? Or are you sitting up nice and tall? Are your hips rotated? Are you nice and stacked? Or do you have a big arch all rolled over? So, there's ways to kind of notice what's your posture like. Do you want to improve your performance either in fitness or just in daily movement? If you notice that daily movement and daily life is kind of hard and challenging, and your fitness goals are kind of at a plateau, because let's say you can't lift heavy enough and you're noticing that when you do lift heavy enough, you maybe have a leak, things like that. That's where we have to stem it back to that pelvic floor. So it's something that we honestly do not talk enough about, partly because we think Kegels will do all the things. But if you've experienced any of these things, I want to remind you that it may be common, but it is not normal. And you can start to improve your your pelvic health, pelvic floor health here at the end of today's call. And I originally was going to do a whole work through all these exercises, give you all the demos here in the workshop. Decided not to do that because what I want to do is after this workshop, I'm going to be sending you a replay email. And during that replay email, you will have links to all of these exercises so you can specifically just go and watch each exercise rather than having to come to this workshop, go all the way through, watch to the end, find the video you're looking for. I'm going to give them to you in individual links. So if there's a specific exercise, you can go directly to that. Some of these are going to be videos of myself. Some of these are going to be videos of other professionals that they have created, which I think is just a really good resource. So just know that you may see a combination of both in that follow up email. So, benefits of regular pelvic floor work. Some of the key benefits include improved bladder control, fewer leaks, and more confidence in daily activities. The goal is, I know I've talked to so many women that wear just that panty liner all of the time. And the goal would be to not have to wear that anymore because you have control over those leaks and you know your pelvic floor is strong. You're going to have better core strength. A strong pelvic floor stabilizes your core, leading to better posture and support during exercises. So remember, your core is about mid quad all the way up to right below where your sports bra will hit, all the way around like a cylinder. So it's important that we're working all of those muscles and we're stabilizing all of those core muscles. You're going to have less pelvic pain. So, when you work these muscles on a regular basis, we alleviate discomfort, especially those that are experiencing tension or pain in the pelvis. So, if you've got any weird pains and things like that, one, if it's something constant and something that's causing you a ton of pain, go see a doctor, go make sure that there's nothing else underlying happening. But if they tell you they've checked everything out and they're just telling you to strengthen your pelvic floor, and they're not giving you exercises, go see a pelvic floor specialist. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, or start with just some of the moves we are going to be going over today. Everything we're going to be talking about is very low impact and something we should all be doing, whether you are experiencing symptoms or not. Because if you are already experiencing symptoms of bladder leakage, things like that, we already have a weakened pelvic floor. Whereas if we start now ahead of all that, we can avoid some of those symptoms down the road and just not even have to worry about them by creating a routine now. Some other benefits are improved sexual health. A stronger, more functional pelvic floor can lead to more comfort and pleasure, confidence in movement, whether it's running, lifting weights, or simply playing with your kids. It's more stable and secure in your body. So when you're doing all these funky things, you're running around with the kids, you're picking something up, throwing it up on a top shelf, the more confidence we have in our body, the stronger our core, the better we're going to feel. These benefits aren't just for now, but they're going to support our long term health, especially as we age. Like I said, you may not be seeing any of these things. You may not have checked any of those boxes right now, but at some point you probably will. So start now on the preventative side rather than having to do it as kind of working backwards. And a lot of times we don't realize that we need to start doing these things until we see some of these symptoms. So, how often should we be doing it? And this is one of the main questions I get is, Morgan, you've already helped me implement nutrition, exercise, water, all these things. How do I have time to add more in? And this is why we're only going to talk about 8 exercises today. And everything, these pelvic floor exercises, you can do in 5 minutes or less. Are you going to do all 8 of them? No, but you're going to pick a few. And ideally, we're going to rotate through them so that you're getting a good balance of all of them, but just 5 minutes a day, because it doesn't need to take hours every single day to work on your pelvic floor and to see a change. So by making it part of that regular routine you already have, maybe it's when you wake up in the morning, maybe if it's before you go to bed, maybe it's right before your workout or at the end of your workout. Maybe it's just while you're sitting on the couch at the end of the night, kind of doing some downtime. The nice thing about pelvic floor is none of these movements are fast, meaning we're not going to get all sweaty. We're not going to get out of breath. They're nice, slow, and controlled moves that when we do them, there's going to be, and I'm going to use the word muscle burn. There's going to be that slight muscle burn that happens because we're working some of those deep, deep muscles. And we're not trying not to let those main, bigger muscles do the work. We're trying to work the ones that are down below even deeper. So they don't have to be something that we have to take a lot of time out of our day, or we have to specifically make it so we don't get sweaty and gross. Like, no, you can do it at any point during your day in just 5 minutes. So remember, consistency is key. The more frequently you do it and the more consistent you are, the better the results you will see. So let's move on to the pelvic floor exercises. So I have 8 of them here for today, and we're gonna talk through them. I'm gonna talk about why we need to be doing them, and then what's gonna happen is in the replay email that I send out, you're gonna get a list with the links. So I will put them in the email, but I will also attach a doc. And when you click on that doc that you can save, you can put on your phone, you can do whatever. There'll be YouTube links to each and every one of these exercises. So the first one that we can do is diaphragmatic breathing. This helps activate and relax the pelvic floor. We'll start the deep belly breaths, focusing how the diaphragm connects to the pelvic floor. So often we don't even diaphragmatic breathe, and that's where we take it and we feel it kind of down low. A lot of times we just chest breathe, or we want to make sure we've got nice long deep breaths where it connects all the way down below. Nice big inhales and nice big exhales. And I'll have a video walking you through that. But that is one that I even do before bed. Sometimes when I feel that I am high stressed or my brain won't shut down, it's also a really good way to just regulate our stress. And I like to do it laying down because I usually put a hand up here and a hand on my belly so I can help feel the difference and not just go through the motions. So the more you can be in tune with your body when you do these, the better. Pelvic tilts, that's another one you've probably heard. You can do these sitting up or laying down, depending on where you're at. If you are somebody who spends a lot of time in the car or you spend a lot of time in a desk chair, you can do these by just rotating those hips and stacking them on top of each other, and we'll feel that lower core kind of engage there. On the ground is a little bit better because you get that gravity, and then we can really make sure that that low back is pressing into the ground where you can't put your hand underneath. So this is a really good way to also improve our lower back mobility. A bridge with pelvic floor engagement. So a glute bridge is a great way to work the glutes while also engaging the pelvic floor. So when we're on the ground, we rotate our hips, press our low back in, engage that pelvic floor, push those heels, lift those glutes up. A lot of times we're doing glute bridges and we're not focusing on all these aspects. So you may be already doing some of these moves. All we're going to do is slow them down. so that we're actually using some of those deeper muscles, like I said, and not just those main muscle groups. Modified Kegels with breath work. So we can go beyond just the basic Kegel and we can add breath work to connect the movement. And I'll have a whole video showing you how all of that works together because there is a little bit of thinking and coordination that it takes, especially as you get used to it, because it's something different, it's something new. It's it's a little uncomfortable when you think about it and have the body move together. But once you get the hang of it and you do it consistently, it becomes kind of second nature. Squats with a pelvic focus, full body functional movement that also engages the pelvic floor. So that's another thing is squats. When we go do a body weight squat, or even when we do a weighted squat, whatever it is, we don't always focus on that core. We just move through the motion and we're like, oh, this is a leg exercise. Really, we should be engaging that core and working on our breath work to stabilize that core, which hits those deep down muscles, which also makes that move easier for us. So, squats with a pelvic focus. Once again, I have a video coming for you. Got three more for you. Bird dogs. This is balance and core strengthening move that works the pelvic floor in a functional way. So you're on your hands and knees, kind of in a tabletop position, and you've got your toes tucked, you're on the palms of your hand, and then opposite arm, opposite leg reach out away from each other. And then we bring our hand and our foot back to the ground. This is a really good one, especially if you are postpartum. The pelvic tilts and the diet, all of these are very gentle exercises. But the bird dogs I really like because they start focusing on that balance and get us into that tabletop or bear crawl position, which as we progress and our core gets stronger, we can move into these more complex moves. So for right now, bird dogs are a really good way to focus on that balance, that coordination, that pelvic floor, getting our body working together as a whole and not just one area at a time. Dead bugs. So this is where we're on our back. This is a move that we do in most of the classes that I teach, and it's meant to improve your pelvic stability, activate your deep abdominal muscles, and help you learn how to differentiate the movement between your hips, your pelvis, and your lower spine. It's one of my favorite for creating a strong base because it has multiple modifications. We can do a dead bug hold. We can do a dead bug hold with one moving leg, a moving arm and a moving leg. We can add a little bit of we could add a ball in there to add a little bit more of a challenge. There's a bunch of different ways that we can progress this move as we get stronger. And sometimes we get bored of these moves, and that's why having moves that we can progress are great. But also knowing that it's okay to be doing boring moves that we get bored of because we have to do those basics over and over again to see the results. We can't be switching it up all the time. It's part of the reason why I'm only giving you 8 exercises. Because if you choose just two of these a day and you just alternate throughout your week. So you do 1 and 2 on Monday, 3 and 4 on Tuesday. Just keep going through and rotating. You'll start to get a really good balance and you'll also start to get into the rhythm and the routine of these. The final move we have is a child's pose with pelvic relaxation. This is important because your pelvic floor needs to be able to relax and not just contract. So when we're contracting it all the time, it can get overused and we have to be able to remember to relax it as well. And that's something that we always forget, especially when Kegels is that primary move that we talk about doing. If all I'm doing is contracting all of the time, there's no relaxation that can lead to things just pulling in ways that we don't want it to. So relaxation of the pelvic floor is and knowing how to relax it is just as important as learning how to strengthen it. So, if you have additional questions, I've got a few more questions that people submitted to me ahead of time that I'm going to go over and we're going to talk about. But if you had additional questions throughout this, you can either drop them in the comments, either on YouTube where you're watching the replay or inside our inner circle, or you can respond to the replay email, whatever is easiest for you. And like I said, I know a lot about the pelvic floor. I'm not a pelvic floor therapist or a specialist. So if you are feeling a little unsure, the first place I recommend is seeing your general practitioner or seeing your gynecologist and asking for a referral to see pelvic floor specialist. Sometimes your insurance will require one, sometimes it won't. Just kind of depends on what you have. Dr. Andrea Hurst, she is a chiropractor, like I mentioned, but at the same time, she is a pelvic floor specialist. And I don't think she requires a referral to go see her. So it just kind of depends on where you plan to go. But let's get some of these questions answered. Are pelvic floor disorders normal with aging? Pelvic floor disorders are not a normal part of aging, but they are common as we get older. They are common because we are not focusing on those muscles and our bodies are changing every single day. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal and it doesn't mean we have to live with it. So just all of a sudden, if you have a kid and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna sneeze and pee for the rest of my life. It doesn't have to be that way. If you don't want it to be, I can help you, others can help you make sure that you don't have to worry about that. But if it doesn't bother you and that's how you choose to move on, that's okay too. But just know that there is an option out there so you don't have to live with it. Another question I get is, where can I find a pelvic floor therapist or a specialist? And a lot of physical therapy clinics now have physical therapists that specialize in pelvic floor. So, like I said, some places will require a referral, some places won't. You just kind of got to check into it. But I recommend seeing your general doctor or your gynecologist, or if you've got a personal trainer that has recommendations of who to see, ask the people that you know who to refer to, because it's a lot easier to find a specialist based on your circle rather than having to go out and do all the research and find the person or find where to interact with them, or do they have to do it online, is it in person, get all those questions answered. So you can check out some physical therapy clinics, chiropractic offices, general practitioner may know, things like that. And honestly, some personal trainers now are getting their certification. There's so much out there that classify. So always ask your questions. Another question that I get is, when do I need to see a pelvic floor specialist? How do I know that my at home exercises aren't enough? And I think this is a really good one, because you could have implemented the 8 exercises we talked about and do them consistently, and you are not noticing any differences. So, there's a few things that you should note that if you kind of fall into any of these boxes, it may be time to go see a specialist and to go get some additional help and support. It may not be something you do long term, but at least get a little bit of guidance in between. So, significant symptoms. If you are experiencing large amounts of urine leakage during daily activities, or you have noticeable pelvic organ prolapse, home exercises may not be enough. So, if you notice any of that, go see a specialist, go see a physical therapist who specializes in this, and have them help you in person, because that right there, that's when your body needs just a little bit more support. If you have pain during exercise, if performing pelvic floor exercises causes pain, it could indicate incorrect technique or a more complex issue requiring professional guidance. So, for instance, if you're doing those dead bugs and you notice that you just have a sharp pain or excruciating pain, that means there could mean there's something underlying in there. And we want to make sure that we're addressing it. We're not just pushing through it. So, if something doesn't feel right outside of the ordinary of like, oh, this is just a different feeling, go go see somebody. Go get extra support, because all of our bodies are made differently and we all need a different level of support. Lack of progress is another reason to go see a specialist. If you are consistently doing those pelvic floor exercises, like I said, for several weeks, and you are not noticing any improvement in your symptoms, it's time to seek some deeper help, whether that's one on one with person, maybe that's going and taking some classes to learn more. It could look a variety of ways, but if you are honestly doing it consistently and you are not seeing progress, then we need to go and see what else is going on. What are we missing? Is it the contracting or is it the relaxing that we're struggling with? Is it both? What is happening here? And then another reason why you may want to go see a therapist or a specialist is complex conditions. Certain conditions like nerve damage from childbirth or pelvic surgery might require a more targeted intervention beyond basic Kegels and some of those basic exercises that I talked about that I'll be giving you. So if you had a surgery, if you had a C-section, things like that, it may be worth going and getting some extra support right off the bat because your body has had a different change than some some of the general population that I am talking about here in this workshop. So never be afraid to ask for more support, get some help. And if you want to know where to go to get more help, feel free to send me a message. I'll give you some of my recommendations. I've got a few PT places, I've got a few chiropractors, things that people that just specialize in this, that work one on one with clients for doesn't even have to be a long period of time, just that short period of time to get a better understanding of what is happening in the body. So, with that, as we kind of finish up today, I want to remind you that within 48 hours, you're going to receive a replay email. In that email, you're going to have all the links to all of the exercises I talked about. Remember, some of them are going to be of me, some of them are going to be of other people in the area that specialize. So, the goal of this was to not have to make you watch this whole workshop to learn about these exercises, but you can actually click on the exercise and do it, click on the next one and do it. The other thing I want to remind you about is inside this group, if you are figuring out where to find these in your guide section is where you're going to be able to go back and watch this. So maybe you're watching this real time and you're thinking, okay, I want to go back and watch this again because there was a lot of information. Go to the guide section and that's where you're going to find this instead of scrolling on the feed. For those of you who are watching the workshop who are not part of our inner circle, we have spots available in our inner circle for one on one and group coaching opportunities. So if you have any interest in that, shoot me a message or drop me in the comments below because those of you who are not in our inner circle are watching on YouTube. So I will check those comments and I'll reach out and give you more details. So until next time, I will see you all next month for our monthly online workshop. I will talk to you then.